On this Thursday night from London, coronation anticipation. The Canadians pumped about participating in this moment of history.
The whole experience has been completely surreal.
Can the monarchy survive with Charles in charge?
He needs public support.
And will he reset the relationship with Indigenous people?
I am very hopeful.
New revelations contradicting the Prime Minister about China's alleged threats to MPs as Ottawa summons China's ambassador. And back to work, the tentative deal for Canada's tax workers.
Global National with Dawna Friesen, reporting tonight from London.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We are overlooking Westminster Abbey tonight, where King Charles, along with the Queen Consort Camilla, will be crowned on Saturday. He will be the 40th reigning monarch to be crowned there since 1066. It is a place steeped in history, but it's 2023. A coronation may seem like a throwback to another era. Yet this will be an historic moment, and around Buckingham Palace, excitement is building. Hardcore monarchists are already scoping out spots.
He's the king of our country. We've got to support our country. You know, we're not Great Britain for nothing.
We're just really excited to be here within the atmosphere and to see the coronation, to see the king being crowned. It's just a momentous occasion.
Everyone loves a great party, that pomp, that circumstance. I think it lifts all of our spirits.
The Prince and Princess of Wales surprised commuters on London's Elizabeth line today, named after Prince William's grandmother. They were on their way to a Soho pub where William pulled a pint of Kingmaker beer, a show of support for Britain's hospitality industry. Big royal events can draw hundreds of thousands of people to central London. Whether King Charles can do that, we'll find out on Saturday. There will be Canadians here, including some taking part in the procession. Crystal Goomansingh has been talking to some of them. Crystal.
Dawna, a number of the Canadian Forces members all use the word surreal when describing their involvement, and that really is something special when you consider that these individuals have traveled the world, they've taken part in training exercises, and of course been on deployments. So to see their eyes light up, to see a smile come across their face when they talk about their involvement is really something special to witness.
In a sea of uniforms, strangers unite. 45 are bonded first by the maple leaf, followed by the history-making role they've been selected to perform.
Coming to Canada in the way I did as a refugee, I've always been thankful to be a citizen, and I've always wanted to give back and to serve. So there's no greater way to do that, I think, than being here.
High praise for a ceremonial role coming from a man who's used to combat missions. Despite different ranks and age, the shared excitement within the Canadian contingent is palpable. King Charles III is the commander-in-chief of the Canadian Armed Forces, and so the royal links are well known. But it goes deeper than that. It's personal.
Something I never would have expected with this once-in-a-lifetime experience. My grandmother was, as a kid, at the coronation of Her Royal Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. So, yeah, I think it'll just be very special for me.
Captain Broderick Smith has a special position in the military parade alongside the Gold State coach, which will carry their majesties back to the palace.
The whole experience has been completely surreal. I think as a 10 or 12-year-old, like at 12 years old, I joined the Royal Canadian Army Cadets. So I think this is something that I would have aspired to do, as a ceremonial activity like this. So it's just phenomenal.
Commonwealth Division!
408 members make up the division, composed of Commonwealth nations, and Canada sent the largest contingent.
I could say that we all were chosen by our individual chains of command. Within the Navy, they have a process, and I guess I'm very humbled to be here. It's been exhilarating and surreal to be part of this momentous occasion.
Just as they did 7 decades ago for Queen Elizabeth's coronation, Commonwealth members are staged at Pearbright Air Base. In 1953, the Duke of Edinburgh came to inspect the troops. Today, those on parade were presented with ceremonial coins.
I'm just excited to start. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to see what the parade's going to look like. I'm excited to see where this is all going to go, and I'm just excited for the day.
In addition to the service personnel, there will, of course, be a number of Canadians attending the coronation service inside Westminster Abbey. That list is sitting at least 17 right now. Let's give you a look at a few of those individuals. Of course, the Prime Minister will be in attendance along with his wife. The Governor General will also be there on Saturday. Roseanne Archibald, the Assembly of First Nations chief, will be there, as well as the president of the Inuit Teparit Kamarit, that was Nathan Obed. Cassidy Caron will also be there, as well as Margaret McMillan. She's a historian, and astronaut Jeremy Hansen. And Dawna, we should also note that Canada's High Commissioner here in the United Kingdom, Ralph Goodale, he will, of course, also be attending that service.
And as will some young people, young leaders from Canada.
Yes.
It'll be a lifetime of memories for those people. Christo, thank
Absolutely.
you. King Charles isn't resting before the coronation. He spent a little time inside the Abbey behind me and later met a delegation of Indigenous leaders from around the world, including those who have traveled here from Canada. There is hope the coronation might improve Crown-Indigenous relations. As Melissa Ridgen reports, with those high hopes come high expectations.
He's known as an environmentalist.
And as I've tried to indicate for quite some time, the climate crisis really is a genuine emergency, and tackling it is utterly essential.
On the record, believing that Indigenous knowledge and land management are integral to combating climate change. These are some of the reasons many Indigenous leaders see the coronation of King Charles as a fresh start in what's often been a rocky relationship with the Crown.
Charles has said some interesting things while he was Prince. You know, he was looking at us. He was sympathetic to us with the residential school issue and the unmarked graves. And he's also takes very strong opinions on climate change, which is positive in our. From our perspective. So we hope if we can continue with that refreshing point of view from the previous monarch, I think there's potential there to have a better relationship with King Charles III.
But they want action to be swift and to follow the Vatican's lead in denouncing doctrines that made colonization okay. The doctrines of discovery and terra nullius.
At this moment, this coronation is an opportunity for King Charles to reset this relationship with Indigenous peoples after many, many years and decades of genocidal policies that were imposed on Indigenous peoples. This would allow not only the resetting of relationship with Indigenous peoples here in Canada, but elsewhere too around the world that are within the Commonwealth.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs will have a delegation in London to remind the new king of his treaty obligations. Grand Chief Cathy Merrick hopes he will put pressure on Canada to be a better manager of these treaties with fewer fights over resources, rights, and sovereignty.
And it's time that we be able to speak about treaties and our relationship with the Crown, and to ensure that we reconcile that relationship. I am very hopeful of that with the new king, that he be able to direct Canada to ensure that we are treated in a good way as First Nation people.
Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
A little later, a conversation about the relevance of the king. I talked to royal commentator Dickie Arbiter about how much public support he thinks the royals have these days. But first, in Canada, the federal government summoned China's ambassador to Canada today, informing him Canada will not tolerate any foreign interference in its internal affairs. Earlier this week, it was revealed Canada's spy agency concluded that in 2021, a Chinese diplomat in Toronto was involved in an alleged plot to intimidate Conservative MP Michael Chong after he voted to condemn Beijing's treatment of its Uyghur minority. In the House of Commons today, Chong said CSIS told the Privy Council Office about the suspected plot when it happened 2 years ago, and yet nothing was done. David Akin has more.
Who knew what when?
Mr. Speaker, I've just been informed by the National Security Advisor that the CSIS intelligence assessment of July 20th, 2021 was sent by CSIS to the relevant departments and to the National Security Advisor in the PCO.
Michael Chong's revelation in the House of Commons suggests that the Prime Minister's top security official was told 2 years ago that Chong had been targeted by the Beijing regime. And yet, the PM on Wednesday said CSIS back in 2021 did not flag such a plot. The government stuck to that explanation Thursday.
I can also assure him that, as the Prime Minister said, and I said earlier this week, that we found out on Monday of this week.
But the opposition says the government's story does not add up.
A massive hole has been blown through the Prime Minister's story about the foreign interference campaign and harassment of a member of Parliament's family.
With the CSIS allegations now on the public record, Canada is taking diplomatic action.
And I've said it directly to my Chinese counterpart that we will not tolerate any form of foreign interference. Not in our democracy, not in our internal affairs, full stop.
But Chong and other Conservatives are demanding more. They want the Chinese diplomat in Canada alleged to have been part of the 2021 plot to be immediately expelled.
Because if we do not take that course of action, Minister, we are basically putting up a giant billboard for all authoritarian states around the world that says we are open for foreign interference threat activities on Canadian soil, targeting Canadian citizens.
Canada may yet expel that Chinese diplomat and possibly others, but for now, the government says it is considering next steps. Dawna.
Okay, David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. The union representing Canada Revenue Agency employees says it's reached a tentative deal with the federal government. A separate agreement has already ended a strike of more than 120,000 federal public sector workers. Mackenzie Gray reports on what's in this deal and why it might not be the end of the labor dispute.
Feed that hunger! The picketing and partying of the public sector strike has come to an end.
It's a sign of relief for our members that have been 15 days on a picket line. So happy that they can go back in the office and to, resume their work to serve Canadians.
The Union of Taxation Employees settling on a 12% wage increase over 4 years, well short of the UTE's original ask of 30% over 3 years. The 3,500 CRA employees also unable to have the right to work from home enshrined in their collective agreement. But they did get some concessions on remote work.
Being on a case-by-case basis instead of being, wall-to-wall, like a one-size-fits-all, it's a huge difference.
They also got a one-time $2,500 bonus, which helps cover the wages lost during the strike.
One-time bonuses are used to grease the wheels for ratification.
But that ratification seems to be far from certain for CRA workers or the 120,000 Treasury Board employees who agreed to a nearly identical deal on Monday.
We thought that there was a strong possibility that we would be out for longer, and so we prepared for that.
The union representing Service Canada and immigration employees are urging their 35,000 members to reject the tentative agreement with the feds.
We heard from hundreds, if not thousands, of our members who were upset, feeling that the agreement didn't go far enough and didn't do enough for the lowest paid employees in the federal public sector.
To ratify the agreement, a majority of their members need to vote in favor of the tentative deal, a vote that's expected to conclude in late June. Dawna.
All right, Mackenzie Gray, thank you. A mission to bring Russia's president to justice, coming up, a Global News exclusive with the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. You're looking at Big Ben, all lit up in a colorful tribute to the King. We're back from London in a moment. Welcome back to London. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made a surprise visit to the International Criminal Court in the Netherlands. He wants the Russian President Vladimir Putin held accountable under international law for the invasion of Ukraine. The International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, has issued an arrest warrant for Putin. Khan is in Ottawa today, and he granted Global News exclusive access to his first official visit to Canada. Turia Isri reports.
Every day, decision makers arrive on Parliament Hill, but few have as much power and influence as this man. Karim Khan is the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and he's going after Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We follow the evidence. Ukraine is a crime scene.
Khan issued an arrest warrant for Putin last March. Russian forces are suspected of many war crimes, but his office is focusing on the youngest victims. The ICC has accused Putin of illegally deporting Ukrainian children to Russia.
We've seen conflicts around the world. Very often children are invisible. I said before Ukraine, this would be one of the priorities of my term.
Despite the fact Putin is a wanted man, there is skepticism, including among some parliamentarians, about whether he will ever stand trial at The Hague. In August, Putin is expected to visit South Africa, an ICC signatory. But the South African government has already expressed reluctance to arrest him.
Can you give us a sense, Mr. Khan, of what options are available to the ICC?
I have confidence that they will do the right thing.
The ICC's own responsibilities are mounting in the current climate. The court has long faced criticism for its slow pace in responding. Khan says without enough resources, the ICC faces an uphill battle.
Like a meeting of old friends.
But he believes he has a committed partner in Canada.
This is a critical moment, I think, in international affairs, that either we hold on to the law, either we make sure the law is more relevant to people that have no hope, no protection, or we run the risk of having no law at all.
A pledge to uphold the rule of law at a time when millions of people are desperate for justice. Taria Isri, Global News, Ottawa.
Ahead, the people in a northern Alberta community forced to flee a wildfire. You are looking at Parliament Square in London. We're back in a moment. To Alberta now, where a wildfire has forced thousands of people to flee their homes. It's burning in the province's north near the community of Fox Lake and is moving closer to the Little Red River Cree Nation. People there can only get out by barge. The flames are already 200 meters away from the nearest homes. Some 3,700 people living in the area are now under a mandatory evacuation order, and it's being fueled by hot, dry, and windy weather. Some BC residents are facing threats from flooding in communities in that province's interior. The creek in Cache Creek is now a raging river. It's spilling into streets and into buildings. A state of emergency remains in effect. People in more than a dozen homes are under evacuation orders. One house has already been destroyed. Rapid snowmelt and heavy rain are fueling similar conditions throughout central and southern BC, triggering flood watches and evacuations in a number of regions. And in southern Quebec, cleanup is now underway after days of downpours and devastating spring flooding. River levels are stabilizing now after more than 100 millimeters of rain fell since Saturday. More than 500 people have been forced from their homes. Nearly 1,000 homes are flooded and 3,000 are still cut off. Police have recovered 2 bodies. They're believed to be those missing volunteer firefighters who were swept away on Monday. Coronation conversation. Next, I ask royal commentator Dickie Arbiter about the challenges facing King Charles. You're looking at Westminster Abbey. We're back from London in a moment. Welcome back to London. There is a long arc of history to the British royal family. It's been 70 years since the last coronation took place here at Westminster Abbey. The royal family is in it for the long game, realizing that without support from the public, they would not survive. Earlier today, I spoke to Dickie Arbiter about this. He's a royal watcher and a former press secretary to Queen Elizabeth. King Charles has spent his whole life waiting to take on this role.
47 years since he came out of the Navy in 1976. No defined role as the Prince of Wales. He created it first of all with the Prince's Trust, then started getting on his hobby horse, talking about the environment. People thought he was crazy. But here we are in the 21st century, and everything that Charles had said from the time he took an interest in the environment in the 1980s has come to fruition.
But he's been waiting to get the big job. He's 74. I mean, for most people, that's an odd situation.
It is an odd situation, but there's no age limit on the job, as we saw with the late Queen at 96.
You know, I've read, I think it was an Australian who said there was a time when Prince Charles was about as popular as a pork chop at a vegan buffet. Say
it again?
As popular as a pork chop at a vegan buffet.
Right, okay.
That's a good line.
It's a pretty good line.
Do you think people's perception of him has changed over the years?
Oh, people's perception of him has changed. His popularity has grown. Everywhere he's gone since he acceded to the throne on September the 8th last year, people have turned out in their thousands, and he's been very good. He is a people person. He likes meeting people, he likes shaking hands with people, he likes talking to people. Look, when he got back to Buckingham Palace after the late Queen died, first thing he did, car stopped short of the gates, he went out and did a walkabout. He was pulled forward by a well-wisher, given a kiss on the cheek.
And he needs public support.
He needs public support. The monarchy needs public support. Monarchy only survives with public support. As long as the public want the monarchy, then it will survive. There's no feeling here for a republic.
There would be people who take issue with that and do want a republic, do want the monarchy to end.
It's about that big.
You think so?
It's about that big.
So,
yeah.
so what do you think the turnout will be for the coronation?
I think
what will we see?
Look, the turnout is going to be big, whatever way you look at it.
Do you think he is aware of the challenge he faces in terms of winning people over?
He is aware. Look, his mother's a hard act to follow. He is not his mother. Charles is a different animal altogether. He likes a bit of fun. Look, when he and Camilla are out on the road, they see something funny, they giggle. They don't care who sees it, they giggle. They think if it's funny, it's funny, and they laugh. And that's the sort of person he is.
Do you think he'll be nervous?
I don't think he'll be nervous. He'll probably be worried about a sort of the crown on his head.
Yeah, do they rehearse that, do you think?
Oh, they've rehearsed it. He's been rehearsed it at the palace, sort of walking around the sort of marked out ballroom.
With the crown on his head.
With the crown on his head. It weighs 2 kilos.
Yeah, you got to practice, right?
You've got to practice, yeah. And he's been practicing, and she's been practicing
Camilla
as well.
too, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then they were there over at Westminster Abbey yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've been practicing. Is he nervous? Look, he's done these ceremonies so many times. It's ingrained in him. And it'll go okay. He'll be all right. She'll be all right too. They've got each other. They'll be great.
And we will have live coverage of the King's coronation and Camilla's on Saturday. It all starts at 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific. And I'll be right here overlooking Westminster Abbey. You can watch it on Global and on all of our streaming platforms. That is Global National for this Thursday. From London, I'm Dawna Friesen. Thank you for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.